I am Marc-Andre. I am the Ed Automation Nerd here at Enable. The Twitter and LinkedIn are valid. If you want to reach out to me, those are the easiest. I will be happy to help you however I can. My role consists of helping partners like you guys to create automation, write scripts, write courses, boot camps, different things like that. I did this morning a boot camp for N-Central on some topic. I'm writing 3 new boot camps with different groups right now. So we are doing all these different things to provide as much as we can back to the community. That's really what the nerds are all about. My focus is on automation and efficiency, but realistically, I can help with anything with our platforms. Just a quick reminder to use the Success Center for everything you need. It is success.n-able.com. That's where you'll be able to open your support stuff, look at the forums, go into the MSP Institute to see our variety of courses that the nerds and a variety of experts have put together for you guys. There's a ton of content on industry experts talking about sales, your business, things like that, as well as a lot of technical stuff. You can also use the ideas page, the old school ideas page, where you can submit feature requests. So definitely use that. You can upvote things, and that is a big part of how we work through our roadmap. So really recommend you take a look at that. Quick question, what is the office hours? So if it's your first one, well, first of all, welcome. This is a topical Q&A. This is the Q&A that we use to engage with industry experts. This is giving you the opportunity to talk to myself, Charles, and different people along the way to ask questions and learn from what we can give you guys, hopefully. This is also built around creating an online community. We want to foster a community around automation, around our platform, around us, and around you guys and around the industry, because we're seeing a switch from the old school, this is my IP, I'm not going to tell anyone, into a, hey, let's work together more because we're better as a team than we are individually. So we're seeing a switch towards that community mentality, and we want to push that along, and we want to leverage it definitely. We do want to help you guys grow your business with tips, tricks, and everything else. And that sounds silly, but your growth is our growth, right? Like if you grow your business and have 1,000 more devices tomorrow, well, you're gonna have 1,000 more devices to put into RMM, and that means you guys grow, we grow. It's very organic, right? We work very symbiotically together, and that is something that is important to note as you guys grow your business. We are here to help because we grow with you. Your success is our success. We do want to also use the office hours to get feedback on ideas and suggestions and things like that. So definitely use that. I do hopefully look forward to seeing you guys ask questions. As far as all the resources available, there's a ton of different things. There's the Automation Cookbook, which is the first one. Actually, still says SolarWinds. I need to change that. It is enable.com/cookbook. This is where you're going to find 550 plus different automation scripts. This library is constantly growing. We are at the moment at 558 scripts, if you look at it right here. So this is a constantly growing library. For RMM, there's 425 that are compatible with it. So there's a ton of different things that you can use. So definitely take time to leverage that. You have the forums, you can ask questions, and then there's a variety of resources that we already. I do like to start the office hours by showing you some of what we've done the last month, because we have added a ton of stuff in the cookbook. And when I talk to people, I find that a lot of people are not aware of it. So I'm going to skip over all the October stuff because I already added a bunch of stuff this month. And we added a bunch of stuff in September too. September, we added about 20 to 30 items, and we keep doing that month to month, which is awesome. So we do have the option to change the Windows language default, and I know there's a typo. We'll fix that. Hey, Charles, can you take a quick note if you don't mind, and let me get that fixed? We can clear Teams cache, which that can grow really, really fast. So that's really a good one to have. Disabling SMB v1 and enabling v2. Unless you have a customer that does need SMB v1, you do absolutely 100%, no questions asked, want to disable SMB v1 because there's a lot of security issues with it. So this script will take care of that for you. Disabling Windows LO, uninstalling a bunch of different products. All of these scripts were added in the last month and are available to you in the cookbook. You can go and grab them and you're good to go. Then you have a bunch of Mac stuff. If you do a lot of Mac automation, you can add a printer, you can launch web pages, set 365 to use local caching instead of a Microsoft CDN. You can use remove 365 keychains and so on. There's a ton of different things that were added this month. I think there was about maybe 10 on Mac, about 15 or 20 things on Windows. There's a ton of stuff that we keep adding. Some of the security focused things for this month with cybersecurity awareness, disabling Autorun, disabling RDP, enabling smart screen. Those are all things that hopefully you guys will leverage to secure your environment. We do have in September a new CVE mitigation script that was added for RMM, so definitely leverage that. And then the rest of it is obvious, so we'll skip that. So there's a ton of new scripts, and that list is growing constantly. Thank you, Charles. So we are really hoping you guys will leverage the cookbook. This is something that we offer and that either we create, we get from our partners that share with us, or whatever in between. And we are very, very grateful to be able to put that in there for you guys. Hopefully this is useful. The purpose of the cookbook is not to just make a list where I can say I have 1,000 items because nobody cares. I want to have items that make sense to you guys. So if you have suggestions for things you want to see in there, this webinar is the right place to ask. If I can build it live, I will. If I can't, I will gladly take it offline and see what I can do. To give you an idea, yesterday during the office hours, we created things to back up event logs, creating Windows schedule tasks, getting Chrome versions and things like that. We'll use those examples at the beginning because you guys are incredibly quiet today. These are things that we are providing to help you guys through your growth, through your needs. So hopefully you guys will leverage that. And now let's get into the questions. I am not seeing many questions yet, guys. So please make sure you can ask your questions so that I can get them answered. I don't have very many. The first thing I'm gonna go through. So with Cybersecurity Awareness Month, what do you recommend that we do for automation? Actually, yeah, I was touching on that, so that is very fitting as a question. So what I'm going to do is come here, and so when I go into the cookbook, there's a lot of different things around security. What I typically recommend to get started with is things like this: setting password complexity. That is something that is incredibly useful. If you use local accounts on your computers for your customers, that is a very good way to ensure basic security. Another very common one is enabling BitLocker. I just added this to the cookbook this week, yesterday. This script will turn on BitLocker. Your only requirement is really to have a TPM enabled, and this will turn on BitLocker for you and will then set up a recovery key and capture that key. So if you want to use BitLocker, you don't need to do it by hand or struggle or buy a third-party product or anything. This will just click do it for you. So if you are interested, this is not in the cookbook and available for you. You also have one to get the BitLocker key, so that might be useful. And then after that, a couple of things. I did talk about the SMB v1. I would really recommend it from a security standpoint to use. Another one would be disabling Autorun. This one I have a little story for because it's something that I've seen in the past. I've seen a lot of people just, when they find a thumb drive, they find cables, they find anything, they'll just plug them into their machine because, I guess, whatever, right? The problem is that if you have Autorun enabled, you can Autorun code and have the Autorun auto-execute code that's on that thumb drive or whatever other device, and that could be a big security issue. I've seen a partner that did an experiment where he took a bunch of thumb drives and put a little piece of software that just called home. It didn't do anything nefarious, but it was just calling home so he could see who was doing it. And he just dropped those everywhere, right? Like subway station, on the street, in front of a school, whatever, plenty of places. And he was surprised by the amount of people that were plugging them in and had Autorun on because the software was calling home and nobody was noticing it. So definitely something that is something you want to leverage. So disabling Autorun, very important. Disabling RDP. With the work from home environment that we live in, sometimes RDP isn't important, but 9 times out of 10, RDP is not needed. So you want to disable RDP. You're going to also want to enable smart screens. Smart screen is one of those little pop-up that will say, hey, make sure that you know that exe before running it. So that's super useful. There's a few CVEs from a security standpoint. You want to use that. There's one that I was hoping to show, that one. Competitor RMM. This sounds silly, but this monitors for other RMM platforms in your environment. It will alert you if it finds them. Now, if your customer has a split engagement and has another RMM out there, that's fair, that will happen. But 9 times out of 10, these are signs of issues or potential risk because somebody else has an access in that environment that is not you. So that is something that you can use to monitor, very, very useful. I think that's good enough for now. Just something that as you guys grow and use the tools more and more, leverage the cookbook, come and take a look and see what's available. I'm gonna put that into the chat for everybody. There you go. So make sure that you do leverage the cookbook because there's a ton of stuff there. All right. Next question. The question I have here is, I'm going through patch management workflow and approving specific patches. If I select approve Windows malicious software removal tool, blah, 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 and security intelligence update for Defender AV install now. Would it apply those patches or any patch that was previously approved? So what you're talking about is if when you go here and I take a customer, I go to patch workflow here, right? When I go here and I select this patch and I do proceed and I say approve and I say next and I say okay and I say next and I say schedule a time right now, this should install only the ones you chose for immediate installed. So this should not install everything else. It should only install that patch. I want to say I'm 95% sure that's the behavior, but I have a doubt in my head that it might batch just because I may have heard that in the past somebody told me it did, but I'm 95% sure this will only install the path that you chose, Rob. So if you only pick this one and it bypasses the schedule, it will only install that one. I would say try it on one device to be safe, but I'm 95% sure that's what I was going to do. Next thing is a feature request from Dwayne. He says, can we have the ability to see module help by selecting the module before adding them? I'm assuming you mean automation objects. So if I open up Automation Manager, I'm guessing what you mean is here. If I have a policy and I see this object, you want to see the help without having to drag and drop it here. Actually, this is a fairly common thing. I'm going to take a note because I keep forgetting it. I'm just going to make sure it's in the backlog of items. Okay, I'm going to make sure, Dwayne, that this gets through. Yeah, okay, that was it was. I'm going to make sure that this gets through. This actually should not be a huge change, but I do get that question quite a bit. So next question I have is, how do I know which devices are Windows 11 ready? Ooh, that's a really good question. It's honestly super, super simple. When you go to the Cookbook, first of all, you can search Windows 11. This is the compatibility checker. So I'm going to copy this and put it in the chat because it's easier. And I'm going to click on that, and then I would download a copy of it. This script was taken from a blog post by Cyberdrain, and we just took it into an automation policy. So when I go here and I go to settings and I go to script manager, right? So if you see my screen here, settings, script manager, when I do new here and I say, okay, Windows 11 version checker or compatibility check, like that. In this case, I would put proper description, but just because it's a demo, I don't care. I'm going to say this is a script check for Windows. That's important, right? And I'm going to browse to that downloaded files. Where did it go? Right there. And okay. Now that I did that, it's now in my repository. It's all the way down here, right here. All I got to do is go to a device of my choice. Let's say those are offline. Let's pick someone who's online. Yeah, this guy is online. That's great. We're going to pick him and say add a check 24/7 script check. Now, because I don't need that to run absolutely every single day, what I would usually do is do DSC for that. But if you're not sure, just pick whichever one makes sense to you. In my case, I think that once a day to check for compatibility is good enough. So I'm going to say do that and finish. I could do multiple devices and do it in batch, but I'm just trying to show you. So I'll just do it for one. Now this gets added. Where'd it go? No, it should still show. There it is. Run the check because I'm not very patient. This is going to take a few seconds, and then it will likely say no because this is a VM and it doesn't have TPM or anything. So my guess is that it's going to say no. We'll see. But yeah, that is the way you would do that. You would put that on all your devices. Whoever is not compatible will go into a failed state. Once they do, what you do is you go to dashboard, active issues, right here. Once you do that, you can filter on the checks of Windows 11. And then you would see every device where Windows 11 is not compatible. You can get the information out and then use it as you see fit. Now, most people are not going to use Windows 11 day one. I am because I'm working with it and testing it, but most people won't, so it's not a huge deal. But it's always good to, oh, this synced, perfect. So it is always good to know if you're compatible or not, because you're going to have customers ask you, right? Or am I ready for this? Am I not? And based on those, you'll make a decision. So next question is, I have added a number of devices recently and I see alerts for performance monitoring checks, memory, non-page memory. Honestly, personally, I don't find these alerts incredibly useful, if I'm being completely brutally honest. Where's my device that I want to use? So do I have that check in here? Yeah, I do. So under the memory, you have these different things. These look at specific data points on your memory. So for example, looking at non-pageable RAM versus commit charge and so on. These are raw metrics that you see in Windows if you look at your task manager or at your performance monitor. A lot of them for most people are not incredibly useful. Like you can see, what is your non-page pool in use, committed, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people don't necessarily know what to use that for. On workstations, I would typically not bother to get alerted. I would usually just leave it be if that was me. On servers, I tend to check a little more. You'll see your commit charge on servers will typically be higher. That is usually pretty standard, mostly on database servers, because they will consume the memory and use it into a commit level. So that will use that. Your page file typically should be low. The page file, when you get you get that pretty high, that's usually a problem because that means that you don't have enough RAM. So I would usually act that way for those. Pages per second just means how much you're interacting with it, so it's not usually a problem very much. So the non-pageable RAM, though, to your questions, the non-pageable RAM, this is usually RAM that is not configurable by the OS. That is something that is usually consumed by an IO buffer or some other things, and that means that the OS cannot use it. This number should usually be really, really low, depending on what is interacting with the RAM at the hardware level. But this typically should be fairly low. So if you see that, the power just went out and back up. Am I still connected? Yeah, we're good. The non-pageable RAM is, like I said, this is not something that I personally worry too much about. It's just if it goes too high, I would say do a quick Google. There's a couple of resources on what to do with it, but I think 9 times out of 10 you'll probably just ignore it. I think it's the honest truth. Next question from Dwayne is there a timeline on when tasks will run in more real time? I don't have a timeline for that. This is my only at the moment. I do have things that I submit to dev as the automation nerd that I push for and that they lobby for, that I say are very important. This is the single most important thing that I've been pushing for. I'm not even asking them to add any new features, to do much of anything else. I'm saying give me real time. That's all I'm asking for at this point. This is my single big rock that I've been asking for a while. I don't have a date for you. I was told this is coming pretty damn soon. It is in the works. They're working on 2 things for me at the moment. One is the real time, and the other one is the ability to run as someone else. When you say add a task, for example, you would have the ability to run as someone else. Those are the 2 big things that I've been asking for and that I'm looking forward to. So definitely what I would recommend to do. Another good question from Rob here. He's asking, is there anything that we can do to tweak system for better performance? Honestly, yeah, there is. Obviously, if the machine is 10 years old and it's already slow and there's nothing you can do, well, then yeah, there's nothing you can do. But generally speaking, there's quite a few things that you can do. One of them is if you look at the cookbook, there's one that is to remove. I made an amp to remove bloatware. I'm waiting to test a few things to submit it. I don't think it's in there yet. No, I did not put it in yet. But I did create something for removing bloatware. That helps a lot for performance. You see all the stuff that gets put in by the machine, by Windows, that you want to clean up. So look forward to that when I publish that. The other one is default apps, I think it's called. So what I'm looking for you, Rob, is there's an app that I created for remove a bunch of built-in apps on a Windows app PC. So it's a PowerShell script that will do a lot of cleanup. So I would probably recommend you look at that example to help speed up machines. This remove a bunch of stuff that you don't typically need anymore, right? Like Zoom Music, Windows Maps, and Solitaire, and all kinds of stuff that Windows will just install by default. Bing Weather is one of them that always runs in the background. So this cleans up a lot of those things in Windows that will hopefully help to do. And yeah, as Charles asked, if there's something specific or common that you're looking for as far as performance issues, we can take a look at a little bit deeper for you. A couple of things to do is that, like cleaning up the apps and then the weird stuff, doing disk cleanups. If you have a newer PC with a small SSD and the SSD gets filled, once the SSD is filled, the machine will slow down. That is a behavior of how SSDs work. They need room on the disk to move stuff around and reallocate the pages. That's how they work. If you don't have enough space, I think it's when you're below 10 or 15%, you're starting to start seeing a performance degradation on the machine. So you want to keep at least 10 to 15% at any given point. So regarding to the memory alerts, I don't have much as far as making it better. Honestly, I would say Google it. It depends if you're on a server, on a database server, an app server, or if you're on a workstation or laptop. When you have memory issues, I would say Google it for your specific scenario, and you'll find I've seen a lot of people that have looked into that and have good answers, but they're very specific to what issue you have at that point in time. One is there any way to create an automation to remove the new HP Wolf security? We just success to remove it across multiple machines. I've looked at it before because I've seen somebody do it, and I need to put it in the cookbook. So essentially, there seems to be a script to do it. There seems to be a SID for HP Wolf security. So if you do have HP Wolf, I would say take a look. I found this line that, from what I'm seeing, is going to remove HP Wolf security. This is the MSI. So if you run an uninstall command against that MSI, this seems to be the one that HP Wolf security uses, and this will clean up. And that is what we're seeing from the registry from the add remove. So hopefully that should be helping. This is a security service, but it should be fine because you have to look at the app. Not all apps have a silent uninstall. This one seems to. So if you want to install that app specifically, I would say run this. And just get that uninstalled. You would do the MSI / uninstall, I think it is, and that will just remove it. And next question is from Randy. He says, I got here late, but I need to download an application from a private SharePoint, OneDrive, whatever, and run it. Ooh, that's really nice. So to do that, very easy. What you do is you start with a brand new policy, because we're gonna start fresh. And what we would do is, first of all, is say folder exists. If you're gonna download something, you wanna make sure wherever you put it exists. And you're gonna tell me that ctemp exists on all machines, and I have learned that the hard way, it is not the case. So I always say, if folder exists, condition is equal to false. Oh, I put an if else, whatever. Create folder. So if the folder does not exist, I'm gonna copy paste this because I'm lazy. Or you can call it efficient. And on the other side, it already exists. So who cares? Folder exists. Okay, now that we have the folder, we're gonna say download the file. So you would download a file from a URL, just like that. And you go, https://file.com/whatever.exe. And then you would say download that to c/temp/file.exe. Now, you would probably want to make sure that the file does not exist, but you can have the override flag, so it's not a huge deal. But personally, I like to make sure that it does. So I would say download the file. Once you have, you can run it two different ways. One is if you need something a little more complex where you can have different handling, you would want to do it through one PowerShell script and put some handling. 9 times out of 10, the run program is more than good enough. So Randy, what you would do is you would say, okay, I want to run my c/temp/file and then maybe /silence/ something for Randy, it doesn't matter, whatever parameters you have. Then you're going to say work from c/temp. And typically you would say hidden so that it doesn't bog down the user. You say wait for it to be done and then say run as local system typically. So this would, I think, do exactly what you're looking for without all the typos, and would work pretty darn well. So what I would then do is I'm gonna just quickly rename it because I'll keep it download and run program like that, and I'll save that and I'll put that into the cookbook like that. That way, that's going to just be a very simple example. What I'm going to likely do is change it to have inputs, so that makes it easier. Now, if you do need to authenticate, it depends what provider it is. So this one will do non-authenticated. If you want to do authenticated, depending on what it is, Amazon, we do have a way to do it through and have the access key, shared key, and everything. I did create an object just like that for Azure. It is not ready yet. I am waiting for them to put it in. I think it might be in the next version. Actually, let me see in 2.19 if it's there. I am waiting for the 2.20 build that's going to be out in Central pretty soon. Yeah, it is. Yay. So they have put, so in 2.19, if you have the latest version of Automation Manager, you have download from Azure Blob where you can actually do the authentication. So if you have a private Azure Blob, you can actually see where's my container name, download location and everything, and that will let you download that file. So if you have a private place, that is what I would be able to recommend. I know if you have it in SharePoint or other ones, I would not, because they're all different authentication and I can't touch those. But Azure Blobs does have a very easy direct API that I was able to work with to do that. So, so Randy, that is what I would recommend, is use this object. And yeah, oh, a 2.20 did come out already. That's good. I was on 2.19 about a month ago, so they rushed it out. And Central is going to have 2.20, I think, next month. So I thought they were going to be lined up, which I'm glad they did. So it's fantastic. So you guys should be able to get that object right now. Absolutely great. So that's good. Use that. Yeah, terrific. Thank you, Randy. Next, a question from Dwayne. Is there a way to allow only specific USB devices to be accessible? Through automation, no, but there are third-party products that do exist specifically for that purpose. They are fairly specialized typically. I don't have anyone handy. Just you can Google it. There's a couple different products that do that, and that will let you, for example, it actually checks for specific device ID. So it has to be a registered thumb drive, for example, to be allowed to be plugged in. I was working with the government here in Canada before, and they were using that technology, but it was a third-party app that they had to install everywhere. So that is something that you will want to take a look at as a separate product. I just don't have a good answer to give you because this is not something that we can control through script. It needs a little closer handling. If you can, by any chance, find an actual script and prove me wrong, I'd be more than happy to build this into a policy and submit it for everybody to use. I'd be more than excited about that. But as far as I have seen so far, this is very limited to the specialized apps that do control the USB stack. So they will disable devices as they show up if they don't have the right information and IDs. Next question, I think, Rob, I don't understand your question regarding patch. You're saying, why doesn't patch management have a column showing enabled? Not sure what you mean by enable. So if you can clarify that for me, I'm assuming you mean in the workflow. So if I go into, do you mean here? I think that's what you must mean. Yeah, because we don't see patch, that's right. Okay, I think you mean here. Sorry, okay, yes. Honestly, I don't know why. I'll take a note and I'll discuss it with product. I do not have a good answer for that. It's a good question though. And someone did answer you on that USB thing. Threat Locker can do it. So you're welcome to use Threat Locker if you want. You can do specific conditional policies so that you can make a USB only accessible if it has an encryption and has been a whitelisted serial number. This is a very, very good point. Thank you very much, Stefan. And that is what I was talking about, getting experts in there. You guys are awesome and you help me all the time. So if you want to disable and control USBs, you can do it by using Threat Locker. Threat Locker is something that we're seeing more and more out in the field these days. They have a great product. And Dan has a question for us. He's saying, I need to create a script for external backup drives to delete files and folders older than X days. I have made a simple bash script using the for files command, but it's not executing when run through enable. Dan, I would typically be careful with that. It might not be executing because the agent itself run as local system, and it probably does not have access to that backup device because it can't authenticate to it. That is typically what we tended to see, because you could use the find files, delete files older than X, and clean that up. There is, but yeah, so because I would usually just come here and say find files older than X, like that. Delete files older than X days on this share. But typically the local system account then will not have access to that share because you'd literally just use this. I would say try this object because you made a bad script, and I would try using this first. Otherwise, yeah, until we do have the ability to run automation as someone else, where you could say run it as a user with network share access, then we're kind of limited in our possibilities there. But It's kind of where I would focus. And Central has that ability, but I know you're using RMM not in Central, so that would be a limitation that you would have to live with for now. Well, deleting folders older than X doesn't really make sense because the with folder dates are changing in TFS is kind of weird. But you could just say if the folder is empty, then delete it, things like that, like doing a file count in the folder. If it's empty, delete it, and blah, blah, blah. I typically would not delete folders older than X because the way it changes folder dates is really, really weird. Rob's asking another good question here. He's saying, all the versions of Automation Manager are sitting in C, program files x86, SolarWinds MSP, Automation Manager, and program files x86 enable Automation Manager. There's a way to uninstall them. They're not in the program/features. As far as I know, you can literally just delete the folders for the older ones. So keep only the latest one or two and just remove the other ones. Typically would not be a problem. Typically, you should be fine to remove them. But if you want to be safe, just open a support ticket and ask them to be sure, or use a chat feature in the help. But I've done it before with no negative impact. I just don't want to induce you an error. I know that you should be fine. The install, though, is really small. I typically don't hear that being much of an issue. What is the size of this? It's like, what, 20 megs? But yeah, if you've been with us for 10 years and you have like 50 of them, I can see that being a problem. At the moment, if I look at Enable, Automation Manager, 2.18, more options, stupid Windows 11, yeah, 17 megs. Now, if you do have a problem, yeah, Rob, I would say clean them up. Just, like I said, I've done it before, no issues. Just keep the most recent one that you need and maybe one more, just, or why not? But you should be fine. Next one is, oh, it's in regards to that vault credential thing. Like I said, I think it's impossible in theory to get that and clean it, but because you want to monitor locked accounts and clean them up, that's going to be tricky. I'm not saying it's not feasible, but I think what you might want might be a little too involved for this today, just because what we need to do is we need to get all the credentials, make sure that they're expired or locked, and then clean up afterwards. And that's not something that is going to be realistic for the context of this. But yeah, there is an uninstaller, but it's going to install the latest version, if I'm not mistaken. So be careful if you use that, Rob. Someone is saying, is there a way to alert if a server is restarted? Honestly, the easiest is to monitor uptime. There is a service in the Cookbook. If I go into the Cookbook here, it is Uptime, I think it's called. Yeah, Windows Uptime Check. That will check if the machine is more or less than X, and will then alert you if that is the case. So I would say use this. So if I say open this policy and I go to my downloaded Windows Uptime, so this one will say, what is my last boot time? Is it more than X? So when you run the policy, it's asking you what is the minimum uptime that you want. So you say, you know what? The machine has been up for less than 20 minutes. It's been restarted recently, and it restarts. You can also monitor the event log. That's a good way to do it, Dwayne. You can do it a variety of different ways. It tends to be my preferred one because this, if there is no event generated, if there was a crash or anything, you don't have to look for a bunch of different events. This just tells you the uptime of the machine is lower than X. You know it's recently restarted. You get an alert, it stays down, and you're good to go. So personally, I prefer that, but event log is also a way to go if you want to look for these specific event IDs. And Randy, you have a question about Mac. Do you mind clarifying it a little bit? Talking about downloading and installing, do you mean like downloading applications or things like that? Like you have a specific use case that you want to do on Mac devices? That'll help us a little bit. Yeah, you want to install an app. Okay. So do you want to download and install an app? Actually, we have Charles on the call today. Do you want to answer that, Charles?
Have you unmuted me?
Yeah, no, you're not muted. You're good.
There it is. Okay. So on the Mac, it's very similar to the task that you were creating on the Windows side. It needs a URL to grab, a place to put that file that it downloads, and then there's a task that you can run to install it. The question for you, Randy, is the software that you're installing, does it exist in a package format, PKG file, or a DMG, something like that, that doesn't require a special installer app to run? Because in that case, it's kind of hit or miss, but with a package or a DMG file, or the ability to make one with a tool like Auto Package, it really is just a matter of putting it somewhere that the Mac can reach, and then either with a script or with a task, grab that URL and then run it with the installer.
He just put in the question. He's talking about Sentinel-1. It has a package. It's an app that we sell.
Well, if it's something that's integrated, we should be able to do it directly through the RMM interface.
Yeah, but some of them buy standalone.
You...
There's a couple of reasons. Sorry, Charles, I'm going to cut you off real quick. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. Some people buy the product standalone for a variety of reasons. If he has it standalone or he has his own license of it and he wants to deploy it, you would have to reach out to support and get help to deploy that if they have scripts available for it. I was
going to say if the license is your own versus bundled, there's a different install process too. So especially for uninstalling.
Yeah, he is standalone is what he's saying. So in that case, I would say just because it's that specific app, reach out to support. They may have something to give you. If not, I wouldn't mind, Charles, if you can put an example of how to download and run a PKG in the cookbook. If you want to take that down as an item, that'd be a good one for you to build if you want to share that after.
I'll do that, and it seems like we do have. I've heard a number of people asking specifically about Sentinel-1 because they do have the standalone. So if it's managed through managed patch or if there's a script for it, I will go ahead and look into Sentinel-1 specifically, but also the just a generic package downloader.
Perfect. All right. Someone is. Thank you, Randy. The next one is Rob asking if looking for a harassment script like PC pending restart, postpone, or annoy me again, things like that. Yeah, patching, force reboot. This one is really good. There's a pre-patch pump staging. There's a couple of different ones that basically will say, okay, well, you've been up for X amount of time, you need to reboot or things like that. These scripts are in the cookbook. I would say look at them, search for reboot or restart or things like that. There's a few that exist that I've created over time that you are welcome to leverage. I would say look at those definitely. But yeah, we show that almost every month. Always someone wants to do that, and they have been created multiple times. They're awesome. They will basically have a pop-up. You can do the reboot prompt that will continuously bug them until they say yes. There's a few different options, and some of those scripts will do different ways. So download the different ones, see which one works best for you, and use. That's kind of why I upload a few of them over time. It's just it kind of makes sense. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm not seeing any more questions, so I'll do a 1, 2, 3 last call. So guys, if you have any last minute questions for me, I'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll adjourn a few seconds early. Thank you very much, Rob. And on that, I think that'll be it. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. I will talk to you on the next one. We run this every month. This is going to be next month, around the same date. And yeah. Thank you very much for being here, and see you soon.